Hello, people of the internet. So I've gotten a lot of questions about my finger paintings, which I've recently gotten into making, and they're so fun. So I'm going to walk you through the process of what I do, tips to paint on your phone. I have recently gotten into finger painting on my iPhone using the Pocket version of Procreate, which is like the iPhone version of Procreate. And I've been having so much fun, and I've got a lot of questions about them, so I figure I would answer some commonly asked questions about how I paint on my phone, as well as talk you through the process of these two paintings you see on the screen right now. So the first painting I did was I was on a hike with my sister in Evergreen. This is literally Narnia.
I love that people are fully dressed right now and we're just not.
You know, why be prepared when you can be unprepared?
Thanks.
And we're taking a bunch of beautiful photos, and there was like this clearing through the trees with some light through the trees. I took a beautiful picture, and I was out and about, and I was at dinner, and I was bored. And usually when I'm out in public and I'm at a restaurant and I'm waiting for something, I bring my sketchbook. I really recommend fitting sketching into your schedule in areas where you have like gaps. So what I mean is, like, a lot of people think that they need to make time for art, where I think the best way to integrate art is to bring a sketchbook with you, and when you're waiting for your food to come, or you're in line at the doctor's office, or you're at the DMV or something like that, to bring out your sketchbook and just draw for however long you're there. And I think that that's the best way to do it, because you really are just waiting. You're not doing anything. So I think a lot of people struggle to like make time in their day dedicated to drawing. So when you just use the time you would spend scrolling on social media or Instagram or something, and instead replace it with drawing, I think that's the easiest way to integrate it into your everyday life without having to make a true effort. So normally I do this traditionally, where I bring my sketchbook everywhere with me, but I forgot my sketchbook, and I don't know, I wanted to do something a bit more finished, I guess, and just sort of play around. And I recently remembered that I got the Pocket Procreate app. So while I was at dinner the other day, I had the itch to draw, as I always do, because I'm crazy and I always need to draw, always, every day. Every second of the day I'm not drawing, I'm like, when can I draw? When can I draw next? And I pull up my phone and I just start messing around with my finger, and I realize it's much easier than a lot of people make it out to be. So when I'm selecting a subject matter to draw for a finger painting, since it's just my finger, I tend to do things that are a bit more loose. So as you see in the sketch, I start out with really big rough shapes. I sort of just carve into it. And I treat my digital paintings like I do my traditional paintings. So I do like to start out with a big blocky layer, and I try to work in very few layers, and I try not to use a ton of like warping tools or just like digital tools that make the work look super digital. Or I try to use them in ways that I don't think make the piece look too digital. I'm always trying to make my traditional pieces look digital. This is a great example where I really tried to make this one look digital, and I always try to make my digital pieces look traditional, so my art kind of meets in this middle ground. But I use a lot of my own brushes to achieve this. If you're interested in buying my brushes, they are on my Etsy, and maybe I'll make a tutorial on how to make your own brushes so you can make your own. But I personally think I have made the best brushes ever. My favorite one is this one called Glitter Pencil that I made, where it's like just a really pretty, kind of looks like a gel pen to me, and I love shading with that. But yeah, I just really blocked in my layers first. I like to use this acrylic paint type brush that I made, and I do that, and I'm just trying to keep in mind the big shapes. And because it's so small on your phone, it actually kind of helps that it is so small, because you can see the whole picture a lot easier. And especially when you zoom out, you can really see your mistakes because they're more glaring. But the way I draw is I zoom in a lot. Like, I zoom in a lot, and I will draw with my finger, and if the line isn't quite right, instead of redrawing it, I usually like to smudge it into the correct position. And this is how I paint too, where if if like a line on this isn't correct, instead of like going on top of it with a new line or erasing it or something, I like to just wet my brush and sort of smudge it into place. And I think the paint just looks more natural if you rather smudge it into the correct position rather than just, you know, trying to redraw it and reshape it and erase it and fix that. I just think that smudging it makes it look more smooth. And for when you're choosing subject matter, when you're doing a finger painting, I particularly did not choose to do portraiture, because I have tried to do that on my phone before, and I just kind of got frustrated because it's so small and it's so detailed, and I kind of want to just, I don't know, I just need it bigger and I need it more in front of me. But something small like a landscape with trees that are just super complicated and textured, but they're pretty like organic shapes that if you screw up, it will look just as fine because it's a pine tree. And I did jellyfish, where those pieces were really more about like shapes and and like motion and scenes, rather than like a face that you have to capture a likeness with and have to make it look like a human. Whereas like it's pretty easy to make a tree look like a tree, or a jellyfish to look like a jellyfish. Like these are essentially different forms of blobs. So that's why I choose the 2 subject matter that I did. I got a lot of questions asking if my finger hurt, and I'm like, I'm not drawing like this, like but I'm rather drawing with my whole arm. So I draw with and I paint with my whole arm anyway, because you can get better fluid motions, and also you'll be in less pain and you can draw longer and it's better for you. You might avoid carpal tunnel if you do this, and your arm is just better to take on the big motions rather than just a single digit like your finger or your wrist. So that's one way I prevent my finger from hurting. I also use reference photo. Procreate has this really great option where you can like add a reference photo, so I just do that and I usually work off of that. And it's just a lot of smudging and layering, and I'm scared of always to make mistakes, so I'm just, whenever I feel like I would mess something up, I just add a new layer, and then after I feel like it's safe, I just merge them. But I always try to work within 1 or 2 layers to really get that like nice textured layered effect. There's another thing is that my style is so layered and textured, and I do that intentionally because it helps me hide my mistakes, because I know I'm not a perfect painter, but I kind of enjoy that and I try to work with that. So the way my style works is that any area that is like blank, I try to add my own brush strokes and my own, usually it's shapes, or I try to make it look like something. Like in this one, it's swirls. I just do a bunch of stuff in like the blank areas to help tie everything together. So that's another thing, is like maybe experiment with like a looser style. If you're like used to working really tight and really graphically, maybe find ways to like circumvent that, and like what in your piece can be tight, you know? Like I make sure to make like the focal points really tight, and I can kind of let everything else fade off into the background of the piece because the focal area is tight. And honestly, that'll help the piece, because if everything is super tight in a piece, it just doesn't end up looking as good, because you need emphasis and you need hierarchy to create a good composition. This is a great way to add art into your life without having to make a big effort into it. I know a lot of people have New Year's resolutions to like become artists or draw more or keep a sketchbook, and I think this is just a great way to do it, and you can bring it anywhere. I mean, I bring my phone absolutely everywhere. I imagine you do too. And you can just bring it and draw and make art, and you can pick it up and you can stop it, and it's automatically recorded for you. Like there's a time-lapse feature so you can share it. And I don't know, I just think it's a really great way for people to get into sketching, especially digital sketching, if they're just feeling a bit intimidated. And the app itself is only like $5. To me, it's totally worth the investment. I'm also coming from a background where I work very regularly on Procreate. For me, the switch was much easier than someone who I imagine who never has used Procreate or used an iPad. But I think that because I have the background that I do and I'm pretty comfortable with Procreate, making the switch was super easy for me. I've also, since doing these finger paintings, bought a stylus, and I will say I got like a $5 Amazon stylus. I do say the stylus makes it easier and faster, but not by much. I timed myself like doing a sketch with the stylus versus with my finger, and I think the difference was only like 20 minutes. So it's just like really knowing what to draw and like how to make the medium that you're working in work for you, because you're not gonna do oil paintings with like the highest finish on your phone. You're doing sketches, but they're going to be fun sketches. You're gonna have to use your tools and use your medium to help it inform the look of your piece. That's my biggest tip. But yeah, let me know if you have any more questions. I'll probably make a lot more finger paintings because I've just sort of forgot that this was an option for making art. And there's been so many times where I'm like, oh, I really wish I could paint right now. I wish I had my iPad. I wish I had my acrylics, whatever. And all I had was my phone. But now I forget that I can just make art on my phone all the time. And it's nice, it's casual. I don't feel this pressure with it. But at the same time, if I do something I really like and I do want to move it to my iPad, I can. Or if I just want to keep it on my phone forever and finish it on my phone, I can. Or I can use my stylus, or I can use my finger. It's really flexible. That's the great thing about digital art. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, if you want me to make any more tutorials on this type of thing, please put it down in the comments below. I read all the comments. Thank you for leaving such sweet ones on my other videos, especially on these paintings. I know they did really well on subreddits, which is always great. You know, it's awesome to read a lot of comments from people telling you that they like their work. It always makes my day, especially as like a smaller artist. I don't know. I'm very extremely grateful for every single person who takes time out of their day to talk to me about my work. Have a great day. Bye.